Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for a different type of video compared to what you usually see on this channel. In this channel you usually see videos about Polish football or Football Manager, and though we're looking at the first topic today, it's going to be a deeper dive. Today we're doing an iceberg, and as long as this isn't your first time watching YouTube, you probably know how this type of video works. An iceberg is basically a way to explain most of the things regarding a certain topic. In our case, that will be Polish football. Depending on the formula you choose, you either go from the most popular stories to those almost forgotten or completely ignored, or you can go from the lightest, happiest, funniest stories to those absolutely dark and sinister. And we'll choose the latter formula. Today we will talk about all the highs, lows and weird stuff that happened in football in Poland throughout the years. So sit back, relax, grab some coffee or whatever you would like, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And now, let's dive in. Say tip of the iceberg. Będę go zjadł. We're starting with a former tradition in Silesia. And to be exact, in a 14 times champions Górnik Zabrze. One of the most famous fans of the team was Sir Stanisław Sędkowski, known as Leon. He was a long distance / marathon runner for Górnik, and he won the Silesian championship on 10 km back in 1961. After retiring from the sport, he worked in the Zabrze mine and spent his free time supporting Górnik. Stanisław started a couple of traditions in the club. One of them is a bell he got from a priest from the Polish order in Częstochowa. Stanisław was ringing it to announce the beginning of the game or Górnik's goal. The other tradition was an award from Górnik's MVP. The best player of the match got awarded with a turkey or a rooster. Back in 2011, one of the Górnik stars was Precious Nakulma from Burkina Faso. On 28th of October 2011, Górnik won 2-0 against Jagiellonian Białystok at home, and Precious scored one of the goals, becoming an MVP. As a reward for that, he got a rooster and was asked by a television Canal Plus reporter what he wants to do with him. The
Co się stanie z
answer,
tym kogutem?
Będę go zjadł.
which can translate to I will have eaten him. And you guessed it, this form, future perfect in English, does not really exist in Polish language. Unfortunately, no more roosters are given, as Stanisław suddenly passed away on July 13th, 2021, a few days after Lukas Podolski officially joined the club. Rest in peace. The knockouts are certain. In 2017, Poland qualified for the 2018 World Cup in Russia, winning the qualifying Group E in front of Denmark, Montenegro and Romania. In January 2018, there was a World Cup group stage draw, in which Poland was drawn from pot 1. Our team got Colombia, Senegal and Japan as opponents. Polish fans were enthusiastic about this draw, claiming this is our, I'd call it Silver Generation's chance to have one more amazing tournament after a Euro 2016 quarter-final. The hype led to this tweet from Tomasz Hajto, a former Polish national team player who wore the jerseys of Schalke, Southampton or Derby County. Currently, he's a television expert. He was extremely confident about Poland at least advancing to the knockouts. And I guess you know where this is going. A defensive disaster class against Senegal, a total demolition from Colombia, and one of the most embarrassing victories against Japan, in which the Asian team just played around at the back and Jakub Błaszczykowski waited for minutes to walk on the pitch, only for the referee to end the game. This all resulted in Poland finishing bottom of the group, even with a reasonable claim of us at least advancing from the group stage. Kaiserslautern's team. It's another Tomasz Hajto's appearance in this video. On July 20th, 2015, there was a match between a mid-table side Piast Gliwice, who later on became unlikely runners-up that season, and the team promoted for the first time ever, Brukbet Termalika Nieciecza, from a town of 750 people. One of the commentators of the game was Tomasz Hajto. Around the 20th minute, Hajto felt kind of bored, and started reminiscing about Bundesliga's history, the league he represented Schalke in. The bit he talked about? Kaiserslautern's 1997-98 season, in which the newly promoted team won the Bundesliga. And to be exact, their season opener, a 1-0 win against Bayern Munich. This man went on to just name the entire squad from that exact game. That moment quickly became a meme, and people remind each other about Kaiserslautern's squad from that game to this day, even under content completely unrelated to football. Oh, and here's the squad if you want to copy it. I bet someone is going to remind us of it in the comments down below. Paris Platynov. Filip Kulon, known as Paris Platynov, is a streamer, entertainer, comedian, and content creator. He mainly streams on Twitch. There, he streams games, among which he's played FIFA and Football Manager. He is also a fan, at least this is what comes from a research I've made, of Cracovia. Paris' content is greatly loved by the viewers, who point out he's a good bloke and has an insanely positive mentality. Now, how is he related to the Polish football universe? In March 2023, rumors were circulating that the manager Adam Majewski, then coach of Stal Mielec, was on verge of getting sacked. It was mainly down to the lack of form the team has presented for a couple months now, failing to win in 9 games in a row, losing in all of the last 4, even though the club wasn't far from surprise European qualification after the first round. But now they were only 4 points ahead of the drop zone. Other than that, the players weren't happy about Adam's management of the team. Stal also lost their star striker Said Hamulic to Toulouse in Ligue 1, and Adam still played the same football as if Said was there. The pressure from the media was getting on the squad and the coach. So before one of the matches, allegedly, Adam decided to put on one of the motivational speeches from Paris Platinov. Did he do it to ease off the pressure or to laugh at the press? No. He allegedly did that to motivate the players. Seriously. The chairman Jacek Klimek said the context of using that clip was completely different, but it wouldn't help that Adam was shown the doors after a draw to Śląsk Wrocław on March 20, 2023. He was replaced by Kamil Kiereś, who guided Stal to a safe 11th place. The surface. Sorin Oproiescu. Sorin Oproiescu is a Romanian centre-back or defensive midfielder who currently plays for Castro Villari Calcio in Eccellenza, the 5th year of the Italian game. But let's go back to 2013. Sorin was a Romanian youth international with experience in a side jumping between first and second tiers of Romanian football, Politehnica Timișoara, as well as Haier FC in Saudi Arabia. In June 2013, Sorin joined Wisła Kraków for a trial. His record may not be the greatest, but his experience wasn't just completely made up, right? Right? One of the users of the Wisła Kraków forum, called Camilo, found out some very interesting information. The only information we had about Sorin is an English language Wikipedia page and a compilation of his highlights in a very low quality, which are non-existent as of now. The problem is, Sorin never played for Politehnica, only spent half a year in Bahrain, and the compilations from YouTube featured a bunch of Serbian players from a Serbian team, Javor Ivanica. Valentin Velcha, who is a former player and manager of Politehnica Timișoara up until club's dissolution in 2012, said he's never heard of Sorin, and Sorin never played in the club, whether we're talking about the senior or youth teams. Sorin blamed his previous agent for some sort of revenge, who wanted some income from recommending Oproiescu to Wisła. This did not stop the storm, and the man actually put to blame for not checking who he was looking at was Zdzisław Kapka, director of football of Wisła back then. Franciszek Smuda, Wisła's manager, still gave Sorin a chance in a friendly against newly promoted Zawisza Bydgoszcz. In that friendly, he's only touched the ball once and was way off his defensive midfielder position, basically just running around for no apparent reason. This would be his first and last 40 minutes in the Polish game, being released a few days later. A month later, Sorin became a player of the Premier League Maltese side, Mosta FC, from which he continued his career in Malta and lower Italian leagues. Jędrzejczyk's cross. We again get Wisła Kraków involved, as they were the hosts of a match against Legia Warsaw on April 13, 2013. Wisła was involved in a super wide relegation fight, while Legia was, sort of, cruising their way to the championship. In their direct encounter, Wisła had a great initial couple of minutes, with 2 chances stopped by Dusan Kuciak, Legia's goalkeeper. But in the 12th minute, it was Legia who struck first. Jędrzejczyk crossed the ball to Vladimir Dvalishvili, who scored it into the bottom corner. And here comes the problem. I'm actually going to show you this image. I guess it's clear, but the referees did not disallow the goal. They actually counted it. Everyone saw it outside the man who was a step away. This was one of the biggest controversies of the 2012-13 season, and both clubs must be thankful this did not change much in terms of the final league position. Wisła finished that season on 7th, while Legia confirmed their title. Vannali. It's the 3rd time I mentioned Wisła Kraków in a row. I already explained this story in the video about the downfall of the club, which you can click on the top right of your screen. So we'll keep it short here. Vannali is a French-Cambodian businessman who introduced himself to the Polish football universe in December 2018. This was the time when Wisła Kraków was in major financial trouble and in danger of collapsing to the 5th tier of Polish football. Two businessmen from Kraków, Wojciech Kwiecień and Wiesław Wodarski, wanted to buy the club, but backed out due to its abysmal financial state. This is when Wagner showed up, alongside a sweet Mats Hartling and their future director of football Adam Pietrowski. Wagner wanted to buy the club and needed roughly 3 million euros, which would cover the club's debt, to formally take over the club. The problem is, nobody could verify who this guy actually is. He claimed to be a part of the Cambodian royal family, which was unverifiable. He also claimed to be a part of Manchester City's board, and no one could verify this too. The deadline day of the supposed takeover was December 29th. However, the transaction was not booked, and on the same day, Wagner fell sick while flying over the Atlantic Ocean. The deal subsequently fell down too, leaving the club on the verge of collapse. Thankfully, Wisła Kraków was saved just days later by its returning player and legend Jakub Błaszczykowski, along with Tomasz Jaździński and new chairman Rafał Wisłocki and Jarosław Królewski, the last one being a majority owner right now. Siwy Bajerant. Siwy Bajerant is a nickname for Paulo Sousa, a Portuguese football manager who replaced Jerzy Brzęczek at the start of the year 2021. His mission was to prepare the Polish national team to Euro 2021, but most importantly, improve its style of play. Paulo did that sort of successfully. We may have scored 1 point only in the Euros, in a draw against Spain, but there were clear signs of progress. We were not parking the bus against La Furia Roja. We actually didn't just counter-attack and hope for a miracle. We played like we were equals with stronger opponents, with formation changes, position changes, possession style of play, instead of hoping that a long ball to Lewandowski will sort the deal. In the 2022 World Cup qualifying, the results were alright. Poland qualified to the playoffs and got an important home draw against England with a 92nd minute equalizer from a central midfielder Damian Szymański. But Paulo Sousa's career in Poland was filled with controversies. The first major one came to light in the final qualifying game against Hungary, when Paulo decided to let Lewandowski go to Robert's business meetings on the day of the match. What was even weirder is that Robert was seen on the Polish national team bench during the game and was not registered to play. Poland lost that game 2-1. It later turned out it was Robert's own decision. The coach took the media backlash on himself, and the players did not really like it. The other controversy, the proper one this time, started during Christmas of 2021. Paulo Sousa has a major warning sign, and that is his tendency to live in a controversial fashion. This has already happened a couple of times during his managerial career, like when he got sacked by Queen's Park Rangers in 2009, when, this is what the club claimed, Paulo revealed sensitive information about a loan move of Dexter Blackstock to Nottingham Forest that Paulo did not agree for. Or leaving Swansea for Leicester the second he got an offer from the Foxes. Or leaving Videoton for family reasons while negotiating a contract with New York Red Bulls, where he was not appointed at the end of the day. Or resigning after a dispute with the Bordeaux board in 2020. Around Christmas 2021, there were continuous rumors that Paulo got an offer from Brazil, and to be exact, the top tier club Flamengo. On December 26, Paulo asked the Polish FA to terminate his contract, which caused an immediate media backlash. The Polish FA, under new chairman Cezary Kulesza, did a very good job handling the situation though. They ensured that Paulo Sousa would have to pay a hefty compensation for his departure and waive his and his staff's wages until March, the month of World Cup playoffs. In Brazil, Paulo only lasted half a year and got sacked in June after winning only 3 league games out of 10. Meanwhile, Poland qualified to the 2022 World Cup, beating Sweden 2-0 in Chorzów in the playoffs. Due to the way Paulo left Poland and how he got a reputation of preaching motivational speeches, the long-term vision, and even referring to the Polish Pope, he was nicknamed Siwy Bajerant, the grey smooth talker. The body. Brazilian Pogoń Szczecin. In the year 2003, just 2 years after the runners-up title in the Polish top flight, a club from the northwestern part of Poland, Pogoń Szczecin, was relegated from the Pierwsza Liga. Ekstraklasa wasn't a thing back then. The Szczecin outfit went down with only 2 wins, scoring 9 points total. This was the result of misunderstanding between, first, a Turkish businessman Sabri Bektaş, and later, since the year 2002, Leszek Gondorowicz, a Swedish businessman of Polish descent, and the city of Szczecin. Following the relegation, the club failed to get the license and ceased to exist, only being reinstated by the fans to initially play in the 4th tier in 2003-2004 season. This is where one of the richest Polish businessmen, Antoni Ptak, felt a chance. Mr. Antoni already had experience as the owner of ŁKS Łódź, who won the title in 1998, and Lechia Gdańsk in the second tier. He now owned a team called Piotrkowia, from a town named Piotrków Trybunalski, lying in central Poland. At the same time as the supporters club was reinstated, Antoni moved his club Piotrkowia to Szczecin and took over original Pogoń's license to play in the second tier, renaming the new old team as MKS Pogoń Szczecin. The original Piotrkowia was reinstated to play in Klasa A, which was the sixth tier at the time, and the supposed to be supporters club was approved by the fans to become Pogoń's B team. The newly created Pogoń won the second tier and returned to the Ekstraklasa in 2004, in which Pogoń finished the season 9th out of 14 teams. In the next year, Pogoń finished 10th. But that's not the point. During the winter of 2006, Antoni was not happy with the results of the club. Pogoń was 9th in the standings, just like last year, with a game in hand. This is where Antoni's vision comes in full swing. Antoni Ptak decided that he wants to have a team full of Brazilian players. During a single transfer window, Pogoń signed 17 players from the country of Canarinhos. Of course, there were some names that could drive excitement, like Amaral, who played 14 times for the Brazilian national team. But other than him, most of the players were chosen at complete random. Do you hold a Brazilian passport? Welcome to our club, simple as that. The first round of a brand new team wasn't awful, and Pogoń saw out the season in 10th. But the very next season would show the true result of the experiment. You see, back in that day, if there was any scouting, you would mostly go to games yourself and watch the players, and generally information was much more scarce. Pogoń signed 18 more Brazilians during that season, and that scarcity in terms of scouting showed. As I said, most of the players were chosen at random, though there were some good names, like a later Pogoń Szczecin legend Eddie Andradina. And when I looked up the teams Pogoń signed Brazilians from, many of them don't even have a proper English Wikipedia page. The other part of Antoni's vision was to locate a training center and therefore accommodate the players in a village named Gotów Mały. If it was a small town near Szczecin, it would be fully understandable. But Gotów Mały is located in central Poland, 500 kilometers from Szczecin. This made Pogoń's home matches in Szczecin being one of the furthest trips throughout the season, which was to no sympathy from neither the team or the fans. That experiment shortly did not go to plan. Pogoń failed to stay up and finished rock bottom with only 3 wins. Following the relegation, Antoni Ptak released the majority of the players and tried to sell the club to numerous investors. But the negotiations with 2 local entrepreneurs failed, and therefore Pogoń was denied license, liquidated, and had to start over from the 4th tier of Polish football. The 2 entrepreneurs Antoni Ptak tried to sell the remainders of the club to, Artur Kałożny and Grzegorz Smolny, acquired 50% of the Phoenix Club's shares, and the first one of them was the club's chairman until 2011. Pogoń returned to the Ekstraklasa in 2012 and has been an established part of the league's top 8 since then. Janusz Jojko. Janusz Jojko is a goalkeeping coach and a former goalkeeper who played in the likes of Ruch Chorzów and GKS Katowice. He is considered to be one of the icons of the latter team, but the majority of Polish football fans will remember Janusz for a single throw. In the 1986-87 season, Janusz Jojko was a goalkeeper for Ruch Chorzów. The Blues, 13-time champions at the time, were on the verge of relegation from the top division, finishing 30th and having to partake in a playoff against 11th Lechia Gdańsk. In the 13th minute of the first match, Janusz Jojko easily caught the ball in his own 6-yard box. He then wanted to throw it to one of his teammates. And Janusz scored one of the weirdest own goals in football history. It was confusing for everyone at the stadium, including the main referee, who thankfully had an assistant referee who noticed the own goal. Ruch Chorzów went on to lose this game 2-1, as this was the last game for Janusz in the Blues, as he was essentially kicked out of the club after this match. Now you have to understand, these were the times when corruption in the Polish game was essentially everywhere. And it wasn't even quiet. An instance of buying or selling matches was a usual occurrence, which especially intensified nearing the end of each season. Ruch also experienced that in 1987, thanks to a nullified 2-0 win against Zagłębie Lubin in the final match day. Why am I talking about this? After the playoffs' infamous own goal, a cleaner found a bag with money in the dressing room. Nobody admitted to it, so I will not dig deeper. Though there were suspicions this own goal was intentional. Ruch lost both playoff games with a 2-1 result, which ended with the Blues getting relegated for the first time in their history. Thankfully, Janusz moved to GKS Katowice after his half-year disqualification and became one of that club's icons. He was a hero in the 1994-95 UEFA Cup games against Greek side Aris Saloniki on penalties and in the second round against Bordeaux, as GKS was stopped in the round of 16 by Bayer Leverkusen. Gonçalo Feio. Gonçalo Feio is a Portuguese football manager who spent nearly the entire career in Poland so far. He is now in charge of Legia Warsaw, which he guided to the Conference League knockout stages. He is now trying to get Legia to qualify for Europe again, with a chance of winning the league title, albeit not the biggest one. But this man's career is also filled with numerous controversies. I already made a full video about Gonçalo's career so far, which you can watch on the top right of your screen, and the specific event I want to talk about happened on 5th of March 2023. Motor Lublin, the side Gonçalo managed at the time, played GKS Jastrzębie on a snowy day in the 3rd division and went on to win the game 2-1. But that did not really matter, because Gonçalo went on to shine. On the same day, two huge incidents happened involving the Portuguese manager, first of which involved a press officer. This wasn't the first time Gonçalo had a problem towards her, using words and phrases that were heavily offensive. But this time, it was a little too much, especially considering what happened after the game. Gonçalo was in open conflict with the chairman Paweł Tomczyk. This conflict was rising for months, starting with a little "I'm on the same line as the chairman" during a press conference. In February 2023, Gonçalo posted a video on his own YouTube channel, claiming the City Sports Center is sabotaging the club. He claimed that Mosir, the City Sports Center, prefers to organize other events, did not really care about the facilities where motor players train, or did not manage to remove the snow out of the pitch before a friendly. There was also the other reason, much more private: Feio's partner, who was not giving a better job in the club by the chairman. It ended up with a bunch of conferences over different issues around the club, one of which was meant to be a mutual one with Feio and Tomczyk. But Gonçalo decided not to turn up, claiming the pitch results speak for themselves. And then a month later he hit the chairman with a document tray, which sent the chairman to the hospital. Do you want to know the punishment for this? Suspended disqualification for a year. Oh, and an apology that was issued a year later. This is how long the entire case took. What's more is that the owner of the club, billionaire Zbigniew Jakubas, was actually somewhat defending Feio and did not even sack him, claiming that if Feio leaves, Jakubas is done with the club. Tomczyk and the press officer did leave the club though, days after the incident. Panathinaikos, Wisła Kraków. In the year 1997, a businessman by the name of Bogusław Cupiał bought Wisła Kraków and became its owner. His ambition was to turn Wisła into a dominant team in Poland and qualify for the Champions League, which since the year of a competition revamp in 1992 only saw a Polish club twice: Legia Warsaw in the 1995-96 season and Widzew Łódź the very next year. In the domestic field, we can tell that the job was completed. Wisła won 8 league titles during Bogusław's tenure, but in the Champions League, it wasn't that easy. And you can't blame the White Star. Their opponents in the final qualifying rounds were often the likes of Anderlecht, Barcelona, or Real Madrid. However, in the year 2005, there was a real chance to enter Europe's elite. Wisła finally got an opponent they could beat: Panathinaikos, the runners-up of the Greek league. In the first leg between the two, it looked like the paradise was near. Wisła won 3-1 at home, which would be massively helpful before going to Athens for a rematch. The first half went as planned. Wisła was actually somewhat dominant on the pitch, but couldn't convert their advantage, despite numerous chances that Marek Zińczuk, the left winger, had. The match kicked off properly in the second half, and it all went wrong. In the space of 2 minutes, Nassiew Morris gave the lead to the Greek side, doubled by Emanuel Olisadebe, who is a former Polish international. The aggregate was a 3-3 draw, but with the rule of away goals, it was Panathinaikos who were in the Champions League. However, just like Panathinaikos had a great couple of minutes, Wisła would turn out to have the same. First, Radosław Sobolewski, a defensive midfielder, used his weaker left foot to blast the ball into the top bins from 20 meters out. Wisła was leading again and guaranteed the Champions League with a substitute Marek Pęksa scoring a second goal. Now I will remind you, you are watching an Iceberg video, and of course something had to go wrong. What went wrong was that Pęksa's goal was disallowed. The referee claimed there was a handball or offside. Sources mentioned both offenses, and if we analyze it on a replay, there is neither. It all went downhill from this point. In the 87th minute, Panathinaikos' substitute striker, Dimitrios Papadopoulos, scored with the help of a deflection to equalize the aggregate, this time leading to extra time, before which Wisła's goal scorer, Radosław Sobolewski, received a second yellow card for fouling Flavio Conceição, forcing his team to play with 10 people for 30 additional minutes. The extra time, considering the 35 degrees Celsius of heat and 60,000 fanatic Panathinaikos supporters in the stands, was too much for Wisła's players. In the 114th minute, Ilias Kotsios put the final nail in the coffin, locking Wisła away from their dream destination and dropping them to the UEFA Cup. This game is among the biggest what-ifs of Polish club football. This was Wisła's golden era, and the Champions League group stage would be its proper peak. What's more, Wisła's former players often mention the club's adventure wouldn't likely stop there. Poland as a nation was also very close from reaching a top 15 position in UEFA coefficient rankings, which would guarantee 5 slots for Polish clubs in Europe, including 2 in the Champions League qualifiers. There were suspicions that the match was not clean at all though. Some were putting the blame on the goalkeeper Radosław Majdan and pointed out his 2 errors, namely on the second and the final goal. But in this case, the corruption allegations may as well be thrown out of the window, and most of the blame went on the referee, an Englishman Michael Riley, who made numerous errors. These include disallowing Pękza's goal, allowing the third goal for the Greek side despite a right back Marcin Baszczyński being fouled, or not giving a penalty for the Polish team when Marcin Kuźba, another substitute striker, was fouled, giving a free kick to Panathinaikos instead. All in all, it was Wisła's golden chance to play in Europe's elite, and the only other chance the club had later on was in 2011, when they lost in the qualifying playoff against Apoel from Cyprus. The darkness. The Sunday of miracles. On the 20th of June 1993, the final match day of the Polish League was played. It was the deciding round of games in the contest for the league title between Legia Warsaw, ŁKS Łódź and Lech Poznań. Legia and ŁKS had the exact same number of points, with Legia being better by just a goal difference, and Lech was only 1 point behind. Lech played the 5th place Widzew and drew 3-3, writing themselves off the title fight. ŁKS played already relegated Olimpia Poznań, and Legia played Wisła Kraków, who had nothing to play for, as they were finishing mid-table. The goal difference was going to be the decider that would separate both sides. And you see where this is going. Both matches were played at the same time. Olimpia played their youngsters and was relegated, which makes a 7-1 result for ŁKS somewhat understandable. However, in Kraków, Legia scored 6 past the house with no response. And if you look at some of the goals, you know where this is going. During the games, suspicions were raised of match fixing, with many questions being asked by journalists almost instantly after the games ended. Legia, ŁKS and Olimpia were all against the potential nullification of the results, and they initially were held with transfer embargoes and financial fines being forced on 2 title contending sides. However, it didn't last long. On the 10th of July 1993, during the Polish Football Association meeting, different stands clashed with each other. One side, including the vice chairman Ryszard Kulesza, said that even a 2-year-old would see there is something wrong in these games, while the other, led by Maciej Kapelczak, who was a member of a special committee that investigated the entire scandal, claimed there is no evidence, which was supported by the opinion of the referees. After those verbal encounters, the majority of 68-20, with 11 abstentions, voted for cancelling the results of both games, officially stating that they lacked the fair sporting spirit. This resulted in Legia's title being handed over to Lech Poznań. Legia and ŁKS would also be banned from UEFA competitions for the very next season. The club from the capital tried to appeal the verdict multiple times to at least hand back their league title, but all appeals were rejected, the latest one being sent in 2007. We can tell this was one of the tips of the iceberg in the world of Polish football corruption during the 80s, 90s and 2000s. But if you thought this was the end of that particular story, you'd be wrong. In the year 2021, a player from Wisła Kraków, Grzegorz Szeliga, admitted that the game was sold on social media, and you can definitely tell this topic is still creating massive tension in the Polish football universe. If you would like me to go deeper into this topic, let me know in the comments below, because it is truly very deep. Match on water. The 1974 World Cup was arguably the best major international tournament ever played by Poland. The Poles sensationally knocked out England and advanced to the World Cup from their qualifying group, and in the tournament itself, they were one of the sensations. In the first group stage, Poland played against Argentina, Italy and Haiti. The team won all games, and was on the way to repeat the same feat in the second group stage. After winning against Sweden and Yugoslavia, a match on July 3rd against the hosts, West Germany, was the one to decide which team would play in the World Cup final. Surprisingly, the Poles were the favorites, and that was the general consensus before the tie. The Polish national team, managed by Kazimierz Górski, was playing some spectacular football, which involved quick passing and wing play. Many players and experts considered the Poles to be the best team in the World Cup. However, just before the game against the West Germans, during the players' warm-up, a huge rainfall came over Frankfurt's Waldstadion. The amount of water that appeared on the pitch opened up a discussion if the match should be postponed. The match service and firefighters did try to remove the water using any tools possible, but at the start of the game, the pitch was still so wet, the game was meant to be postponed. However, due to the tight schedule, it went ahead with a 30-minute delay anyway. This match was a very weird one. The pitch conditions, worsened by continuous rain, made it near impossible to play smoothly. The players were sliding, splashing puddles of water and mud, on which the ball was regularly stopping. In the 10th minute, the referee stopped the game due to a minute of silence for the former Argentinian president Juan Perón, who passed away 2 days before the game. In the game itself, Poland did have a first half advantage, but numerous chances were stalled by Germany's goalkeeper Sepp Maier. But in the second half, West Germany had a penalty in the 53rd minute, stopped by the goalkeeper Jan Tomaszewski. In the 76th minute, Gerd Müller broke the hearts of Poles, scoring the only goal of the game. Poland still went on to win 1-0 in the third place playoff against Brazil and became the world's third best team, while West Germany won against the Netherlands in the final. Years later, Franz Beckenbauer has admitted that in the normal conditions, Poland would be absolutely unstoppable. Śląsk Wisła 1982. The Polish league title in the year 1982 was contested between Śląsk Wrocław and Widzew Łódź. The first team was in the 3-point lead with 2 matches to go, but in the penultimate game, Śląsk lost 3-1 to Stal Mielec, who finished the season in third. Widzew won 2-0 against Arka Gdynia and was only 1 point behind the leaders. For those confused, you were only awarded 2 points for a win back in the day. On the final match week, Śląsk played against mid-table Wisła Kraków, while Widzew opponents were Ruch Chorzów. If the Blues lost the game and Arka Gdynia won against Górnik Zabrze, we would see Ruch Chorzów getting relegated. We already established during this iceberg video that the club football in Poland was nowhere near clear from corruption during the 80s, 90s or 2000s, so it was perfectly natural for both Śląsk and Widzew to get some help to win the league. The target for both was Wisła Kraków. Śląsk wanted Wisła to let them win. Widzew wanted the Kraków side to play the game of their lives. Śląsk offered 4,000 Polish zloty. According to an official exchange rate at the time, it was about $5,700. On a black market, $800. Widzew, powered by Zbigniew Boniek's incoming transfer to Juventus, offered 600,000 Polish zloty. Around $1,200 on the black market was in dollars themselves. The bid was ongoing until the very start of the game. Śląsk was losing this battle off the pitch, trying to raise funds with an entrepreneur from the town of Dzierżoniów, who had a plum big business. However, they only managed to raise 500,000 Polish zloty. Wisła took the money from Widzew and played the best football they could. Śląsk players, who additionally convinced the referee Alojzy Jargus, were confused because Wisła players were playing the best they could but were affirming their opponents about the safety of their second league title. Even when Wisła scored in the 51st minute, thanks to Piotr Skrobowski finding himself the best in Śląsk's penalty box. Śląsk players were confused and desperate, and Wisła players were playing mind games with the hosts. Thankfully for the home side, they had the referee to back them up. With 7 minutes to go, Alojzy Jargus saw a dubious fall in Wisła's area. Penalty. Tadeusz Pawłowski stepped up. The star midfielder had a contract prepared with RC Lens in France, but he still wanted to leave Śląsk as a hero. He was confident about scoring the goal. He usually was scoring penalties to the right side of the net, and this is the information Wisła's goalkeeper Janusz Adamczyk knew. However, this time, Tadeusz was going to put the ball on the left side, likely because he was certain Adamczyk would try to save a penalty by going to the right side. Adamczyk saved. Right before the penalty, Wisła's midfielder Andrzej Iwan, who was meant to move to Widzew after the season, told his goalkeeper to go left, which helped save the spot kick. At the same time, Widzew drew Ruch Chorzów 1-0, and thanks to a head-to-head record, defended the crown. Tadeusz Pawłowski's deal with loans fell through due to complications when trying to get a passport, which was nowhere near easy during the communist era anyway. After half a year of struggles, including Śląsk's coach Jan Caliński being forced by upper powers not to play Pawłowski in the UEFA Cup, Tadeusz moved to Admira Wacker in Austria. And Andrzej Iwan, who helped save the penalty? He did not move to Widzew and only found his way to Górnik Zabrze in 1985 and VfL Bochum in 1988. I included only one event in the abyss for this video, and that will be the injury of Włodzimierz Lubański. Włodzimierz Lubański is considered to be one of the best players in Polish football history, who spent a majority of his career as a striker for Górnik Zabrze. He scored a total of 155 goals in the Ekstraklasa, then called Pierwsza Liga, for the Silesian side, becoming the 6th best goal scorer of all time in the top flight. He was also a part of the legendary Górnik side that went all the way to the final of the 1970 Cup Winners' Cup, only losing out 2-1 to Manchester City. The scale of Lubański's talent can only be pictured with Real Madrid offering a $1 million fee, which would double the transfer record at the time. However, back in the days of the Polish People's Republic, abbreviated as PRL, if you had interest from foreign clubs, you couldn't just leave after the clubs agreed on a deal. You also needed a government permission, and it was near impossible to leave before reaching the age of 29. Włodzimierz was only 24 at the time. The Central Committee of the Polish United Workers' Party, fearing the reaction from the Soviet Union, did not even sit down to negotiations. The deal fell through, and Włodzimierz returned to scoring more and more goals for Górnik and the Polish national team. One of the goals he scored for Poland was against England in the 1973 World Cup qualifier in the Silesian Stadium in Chorzów. That goal, scored in the 47th minute, secured a 2-0 win against the Three Lions. However, just 7 minutes later, Roy McFarland fouled Włodzimierz, whose anterior cruciate ligaments subsequently ruptured. Włodzimierz was immediately substituted, and it also turned out to be Włodzimierz's final game in a full year. This is how serious this injury was. Włodzimierz missed the 1974 World Cup and did not play in the Polish national team again until 1976. This brings a question which might be even the greater what if than the Panathinaikos Wisła game. If Włodzimierz did not get injured in the game against England, would the Polish national team win the World Cup in 1974? There's one thing we need to correct though. After many years, Włodzimierz has admitted that Roy did not really injure his knee with the tackle. The true reason behind that injury was another ACL injury, albeit much lighter one, Włodzimierz got in a previous friendly. The striker was pretty much racing against time to make it to the game. He maybe could have waited this game out to fully recover. But Włodzimierz said if he could go back in time, he would play again. Włodzimierz was still a very good player after he returned from that injury, but he wasn't on the level he represented before one. It was still enough to move into KSC Lokeren in Belgium, with which Włodzimierz took part in the UEFA Cup and was second in the league in 1981, the best in the club's history. Of course, I know there is much more to the Polish football universe than we just covered in this video. And I know I just maybe scratched the surface. I might do a part 2 of this. You can mention more stories in the comments, just avoid making the spoilers. No promises though, because this video itself you're watching right now took multiple months to create. Anyways, it's time to thank you for joining on this wild ride, listening to some of the darkest Polish stories. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I will be very grateful for that, as I plan to make more football or football manager content during 2025. And I will catch you in the next one.